She did not cry in the studio. That part matters. When the words landed, and they did land, the way a door slams in a quiet house, she simply nodded, picked up her dance bag, and walked out. No scene, no argument. Just a 12-year-old girl absorbing something that would either break her or become the foundation of everything she built after. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you are watching from. We would love to hear from you. If you enjoy stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who would love it too. The studio was called Prestige Dance Academy, which was exactly the kind of name that told you everything about what the people inside valued. It sat in a mid-sized city in Ohio, the kind of place where dance recitals were a serious social event, where parents drove 40 minutes each way 3 times a week without complaint, and where the instructor's opinion carried the kind of weight that children were not equipped to push back against. Her name was Maya Ellison. She was 12 years old, 5 feet 2 inches, and had been dancing since she was 4. 8 years. Nearly 2/3 of her entire life had been spent in studios just like that one, watching her feet in mirrors, counting beats, learning how to make her body say things her mouth could not. Her mother, Denise, had signed her up originally because Maya would not stop moving. She danced in the kitchen while breakfast was being made. She danced in the backyard. She danced in the school hallway until a teacher politely asked her to stop. And even then, she kept the rhythm going in her fingers against her thigh, unable to fully turn it off. Dance was not something Maya did. It was closer to something Maya was. The instructor at Prestige was a woman named Carol Hess. She had competed in her 20s, regional titles, a few national placements. Nothing that translated into a professional career, but enough to coat her authority in a layer of credibility that parents respected and children feared. She was not cruel in the obvious way. She did not yell. She was precise, which in certain contexts is more damaging than cruelty because it carries the disguise of objectivity. What she said to Maya that afternoon in September was said in front of 3 other girls who were stretching at the bar. That detail matters too. She looked at Maya mid-combination, stopped the music, and then said that Maya had real technical ability, but that her body type was going to be a problem. That the kind of roles Maya wanted to pursue required a certain look, that she might want to think about whether this was a realistic path or whether she was setting herself up for disappointment. She framed it as guidance. That was the sophistication of it. Maya nodded, picked up her bag, walked out. In the car, Denise noticed immediately that something had shifted. She had learned over 12 years of motherhood that the most significant things her daughter carried never announced themselves loudly. She asked once. Maya said she was fine. Denise drove home and did not press, because she had also learned that pushing too early closed doors that would eventually open on their own. That night, Maya did not eat dinner at the table. She said she was not hungry and went to her room. Denise stood at the kitchen sink for a long time after, the water running, not washing anything. It took 4 days before Maya told her. She told it flatly, almost like she was reporting something that had happened to someone else. She sat on the edge of her bed and described what Carol Hess had said word by word, with the kind of precision that told Denise her daughter had been replaying the moment on a loop since it happened. When she finished, she looked at her mother and said she did not know if the woman was right or not, and that was the part that scared her most. Not the cruelty of it, but the possibility that it might be true. Denise did not tell Maya that Carol Hess was wrong. She did not immediately reassure her. That instinct was there, the full force of it. But she held it back because she recognized that Maya was not asking to be comforted. She was asking to be seen clearly. So Denise sat next to her on the bed and said that she thought Maya was one of the most naturally gifted people she had ever watched move, and that she also thought Maya deserved to be somewhere that could actually see that. They pulled her from Prestige Dance Academy the following week. The refund conversation with Carol Hess was brief. The woman expressed no surprise and offered no apology. She said she hoped Maya found what she was looking for, in the tone of someone who did not believe she would. For 6 weeks, Maya did not dance. This was not a decision she announced. It simply happened the way grief sometimes happens. Not as a choice, but as an absence that fills the space where something used to be. And Denise watched and waited. She did not sign Maya up for anything new. She let the 6 weeks be what they needed to be. Then one evening she came home from work and heard music coming from the basement. Not a recording she recognized. Something with a slow, searching quality. The kind of music that sounds like a question being asked rather than a statement being made. She stood at the top of the basement stairs and listened without going down. Maya was dancing, not rehearsing, not running a routine. Dancing the way she had at 4 years old in the kitchen, without a mirror, without counting, without anyone watching. Denise went back to the kitchen and cried quietly for about 3 minutes, and then made dinner. A colleague at work mentioned a studio on the other side of the city. Not a competition studio. So at a program connected to a performing arts high school, run by a woman named Adrienne Cole, who had spent 15 years dancing professionally before returning home to teach. The program was selective, but not in the way Prestige had been selective. It selected for something harder to quantify than body type. Denise looked it up that night. She did not tell Maya. She drove past the building on a Saturday morning just to see it. Then she left a voicemail for Adrienne Cole. Adrienne called back the same day, which was the first signal. They scheduled an informal session, not an audition exactly, just a chance for Adrienne to watch Maya move and have a conversation. Maya went in wearing a plain black leotard, no makeup, hair pulled back. She was 13 by then, nearly 4 months removed from what had happened at Prestige. She did not tell Adrienne about Carol Hess. She just danced what she had been working on in the basement, the piece she had built herself without instruction, set to the slow, searching music that had brought her back. Adrienne watched without expression for the full 3 minutes. When it ended, she asked Maya 2 questions. The first was where the movement in the 3rd section had come from. The second was whether Maya had choreographed it herself. Maya said yes to the second question and explained the 3rd section by saying she had been thinking about what it feels like to know something is true about yourself that someone else refuses to see. Adrienne looked at her for a long moment and then said, "I think we should work together." The program was rigorous in ways that Prestige had never been. Technique was still central, but the emphasis was different. Adrienne pushed her students to understand why their bodies moved the way they did, not just to execute what they were told. She required them to choreograph original pieces every semester, which most competition-trained dancers found disorienting at first, because they had been trained to interpret, not to generate. Maya found it like breathing after holding her breath for 4 months. She was not the most technically precise student in the program. There were girls there who had trained with elite academies, whose lines were cleaner, whose turns were more consistent. What Maya had was something that Adrienne described to Denise in a parent meeting as intention, a quality in which every movement appeared to be chosen rather than performed, and as if the body and the decision behind it were happening at exactly the same moment. The scholarship competition was not something Adrienne suggested until Maya was 15. The program had a relationship with a regional performing arts conservatory that offered a full 4-year scholarship annually to a student whose original choreography demonstrated exceptional artistic voice. The audition required a self-choreographed piece of between 4 and 6 minutes, performed live before a panel of 5 adjudicators. Maya had never performed a piece that long in competition. She had never competed in a format that valued original choreography over technical execution. She had, however, been building something in her mind for nearly a year. A piece that had started as fragments, images, really, that she kept returning to without fully understanding why. It was about a door, not literally. The movement vocabulary she built was about the experience of walking through a moment that changes the direction of everything after it. The strange way time behaves around those moments, how they feel ordinary when they are happening and only reveal their weight in retrospect. She worked on it for 11 months. Adrienne gave her notes but never redirected her. There is a version of teaching that shapes students toward the teacher's vision, and there is a version that holds space for the student's vision to clarify itself. Adrienne practiced the second version almost exclusively, which meant that what Maya brought to the stage on the day of the competition was entirely, structurally, fundamentally hers. At the venue was a mid-sized theater in Columbus. 63 students from across the region competed that year. The format was a single performance, no callbacks, decision rendered within 48 hours. Denise sat in the 4th row. She had taken the day off work. She wore the same earrings she had worn on the day Maya was born, which was not something she had planned, but which she noticed as she was leaving the house and decided to keep. Maya stood in the wings for 4 minutes before her number was called. A girl next to her asked if she was nervous. Maya thought about it genuinely and said she was not sure nervous was exactly the right word for what she felt. The girl gave her a look that suggested this was not a normal answer. Her music started. She walked into the light. What happened over the next 5 minutes and 40 seconds was not something that translates cleanly into description. This is true of most things that matter most. The panel of adjudicators, who had watched 62 performances before hers, sat in a particular kind of stillness that was different from the stillness that precedes a written note. One of them, a choreographer from New York who had been brought in as an outside evaluator, stopped writing entirely about 90 seconds in. In the audience, a woman, 3 seats from Denise, put her hand over her mouth. When it ended, Maya stood in the light for the required 3 seconds before walking off. She did not look at the audience. She looked at the floor, the way she always did at the end of a piece, as if she was checking that the ground was still there. The adjudicators deliberated for 6 hours. The call came the following morning at 11:17. Denise was at work. Maya was at school. Adrienne received the notification first and called Denise, who stepped out of a meeting and stood in a hallway and listened, and then said, "Thank you," very quietly, and hung up and stood there for another 30 seconds before going back inside. She picked Maya up from school herself, which was unusual enough that Maya knew something had happened. Before Denise said a word. In the car, Denise told her. Maya listened without interrupting. When Denise finished, Maya looked out the passenger window for a long moment. Then she asked if they could stop and get something to eat, because she had not had lunch. They went to a diner they had been going to since Maya was small, and they sat in a booth and ordered and did not talk very much, which was its own kind of conversation. A recording of Maya's performance, taken on someone's phone from the audience, was posted by a parent who had no connection to Maya and no particular intention beyond sharing something that had moved them. It was not high-quality footage. The audio was slightly off, and the angle was from the left side of the theater, which cut off part of the right side of the stage. It was viewed 400,000 times in 72 hours. Then it was viewed 4 million times. People left comments about what they saw in the piece, their own doors, their own moments, their own walks through something that changed the direction of everything after. Most of them did not know the context of what they were watching, and they did not know about Prestige Dance Academy or Carol Hess or the 6 weeks of silence or the basement music or the 11 months of work. They only saw what had come from all of it, which is usually how it works. The audience sees the surface. They feel the depth without knowing its source. That is not a failure of understanding. It is, in a way, the whole point. Maya Ellison enrolled in the conservatory the following fall. She was 16 years old. She had been dancing for 12 years and had been told once, very precisely, that her body was a problem. She carried that moment with her the same way she carried everything that had shaped her. Not as a wound she was recovering from, not as a triumph she was celebrating, but as one of the doors she had walked through on the way to becoming someone capable of making other people feel what she felt when she stood in a basement alone at 13, moving without a mirror, finally dancing for no one but herself. That version of her, the one in the basement, the one no one was watching, was the one that made it. Most people never get to see that part. But it is always the part that matters most. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it right now. And if you want more stories like this one, you know where to find us.